When they sequenced the ethnicity first, they did better on the math exams. But when sequencing is right, reliability replaces the need to chase efficiency. You don't need to optimize every move when the handoff from perception to action is trained. This idea of sequencing is so important. There's in the book Before You Know It by John Barsh, he does studies on the subconscious, and this goes back 20 or 30 years, and it's long been defined that it's more a network of neurons, it's not a mind. But because he's in the neuroscience field, they're still calling it, at least for the published works, they still refer to it as subconscious mind because there's so much traction in history behind that term. But anyway, he talks about this research where you may have seen this thing where they prime the subjects in a certain way and it influences the outcome on an exam. Well, some researchers got curious and said, I wonder what would happen if we combined two stereotypes that are deeply embedded in the US and put them together, what would happen? And so they came up with this idea to use teenage Asian American girls. The reason for that was that in this culture, in the US culture, girls are thought not to be as good at math as boys. And it's also thought that Asians are better at math than Americans. So when they combined them, they were curious about what would happen. What turned out was interesting. When you prime both ethnicity and gender in the information, as the person's putting in their name, etc., and what ethnicity and what gender, what mattered, and it mattered dramatically, was priming. Which one came first? Sequencing. When they sequenced the ethnicity first, they did better on the math exams. When they asked gender first, they did worse on the exams. This changes the complexion of all of these various research projects that showed how you can prime somebody into a bad result. They kind of say, look over here because this is important, and over here is the steps and the priming that they need you to fall into. So that's a little bit out of scope, but I wanted to make that point so that people can see how powerful this is, and more importantly, how we can use it. We shouldn't be letting ourselves get used by this or abused by this kind of work. We need to be exercising agency and personal leadership every day, and you'll see it's not just every day, it's every hour, every minute, and I'm telling you, even at the millisecond level. And while you may think that's not possible, that's what the world believed for decades, it's very possible, and I'll illustrate that today.